Cold War. This period of time following World War II is where the United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers and faced off in an arms race that lasted nearly 50 years. Servicemen's Readjustment Act, also known as the GI Bill, it made provisions for sending former soldiers to school and enabled 8 million veterans to advance their education in $14.5 billion in expense. Employment Act made it government policies to promote maximum employment, production, and purchasing power. Created a 3-member Council of Economic Advisers to provide the President with the data and recommendations to make policy a reality. Council of Economic Advisers, a 3-member body appointed by the President to advise the President on economic policy. George Kennan believed the U.S. should resist Soviet attempts to expand power and influence, the father of containment. Iron Curtain. Winston Churchill's term for the Cold War division between the Soviet-dominated East and the U.S.-dominated West. Truman Doctrine. President Truman's policy of providing economic and military aid to any country threatened by communism or totalitarian ideology. HUAC. The House Committee on Un-American Activities was an investigating committee which investigated what it considered un-American propaganda. Taft-Hartley Act. Act that provides balance of power between union and management by designating certain union activities as unfair labor practices, also known as Labor Management Relations Act. Central Intelligence Agency. An agency created after World War II to coordinate American intelligence activities abroad. Conspiracy and meddling as well. Berlin Airlift. Joint effort by the U.S. and Britain to fly food and supplies into Berlin after the Soviet blocked off all ground routes into the city. Alger Hiss. A former State Department official who was accused of being a communist spy and was convicted of perjury. The case was prosecuted by Richard Nixon. NATO. North Atlantic Treaty Organization, an alliance made to defend one another if they were attacked by any other country: U.S., England, France, Canada, Western European countries. Senator McCarthy claimed he had a list of 205 people who were communist in the State Department. He said there were communists in the Army, NSC 68. National Security Council Memo No. 68. U.S. strive for victory in Cold War, pressed for offensive and a gross increase in defense spending determined U.S. foreign policy for the next 20 to 30 years. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Arrested in the summer of 1950 and executed in 1953, they were convicted of conspiring to commit espionage by passing plans for the atomic bomb to the Soviet Union. Hydrogen bomb. 1,000 more times more powerful than the atomic bomb, Truman ordered the development of it to outpace the Soviets. GI Bill of Rights. Law passed in 1944 to help returning veterans buy homes and pay for higher education. Levittown. In 1947, William Levitt used mass production techniques to build inexpensive homes in suburban New York to help relieve the post-war housing shortage. Levittown became a symbol of the movement to the suburbs in the years after World War II. Redlining. A discriminatory real estate practice in North America in which members of minority groups are prevented from obtaining money to purchase homes or property in predominantly white neighborhoods. The practice derived its name from the red lines depicted on cadastral maps used by real estate agents and developers. Today, redlining is officially illegal. Baby boom. The larger-than-expected generation in United States born shortly after World War II. Dixiecrats. Was a short-lived segregationist, socially conservative political party in the United States. It originated as a breakaway faction of the Democratic Party in 1948, determined to protect what they portrayed as the Southern way of life beset by an oppressive federal government. Election of 1948. Truman defeats Dewey in a stunning upset. Henry Wallace leads New Progressive Party to Republications. Housing Act of 1949. Promised a decent home and suitable living environment for every American family. Bold goals, modest funding. Whistle stops. Presidential campaign stops, originally made on trains. IMF. The International Monetary Fund was created in 1944 with a goal to stabilize exchange rates and assist the reconstruction of the world's international payment system. Countries contributed to a pool which could be borrowed from on a temporary basis by countries with payment imbalances. World Bank. A United Nations agency created to assist developing nations by loans guaranteed by member governments. Containment. The act of containing something or someone. Berlin blockade. The blockade was a Soviet attempt to starve out the Allies in Berlin in order to gain supremacy. The blockade was a high point in the Cold War, and it led to the Berlin Airlift. Warsaw Pact. An alliance between the Soviet Union and other Eastern European nations. This was in response to the NATO. AEC. Atomic Energy Commission. Air raid sirens. Siren to notify of imminent attack by air. Korean War. The conflict between Communist North Korea and non-Communist South Korea. The United Nations helped South Korea. Second Red Scare. Cold War tensions created an atmosphere of fear encouraged by government officials like Joseph McCarthy, Curtis LeMay, general in U.S. Air Force who was considered the father of strategic air command. Pumpkin papers. Papers hidden in Whittaker Chambers' yard proving Alger Hiss a communist. Army McCarthy hearings. A series of hearings where Senator McCarthy accused people in the U.S. military of being communists. McCarthyism. The term associated with Senator Joseph McCarthy, who led the search for communists in America during the early 1950s through his leadership in the House Un-American Activities Committee.